Hi, and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, we have a special guest, Erin from True Crime Bloodhound. So I was fortunate enough to meet Erin at the True Crime Podcast Festival that just happened last month here in Massachusetts. She herself is also a Massachusetts native, which freaking awesome. So the podcast, the True Crime Bloodhound podcast, started in April of 2024. She also has a YouTube channel. So there's a lot to talk about with that, as well as Erin will be talking about a case local here to Massachusetts, an unsolved case. So without further ado, let's bring on Erin from True Crime Bloodhound. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Danny, how are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, pretty good. It's been a minute since I've been on YouTube, so I've got the sweaty palms, but I'm trying to get back into it. So I try not to be too shaky and nervous.
Well, YouTube, we'll get to YouTube. YouTube is a whole thing in itself. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? And kind of how were you always into true crime?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Been into it for pretty much my whole life, actually. I started reading true crime books probably way younger than any person really should. But I've always been interested. I've always been sort of obsessed with the why of all of it. And unsolved cases really just, they get me, and I can't let go. And the case we're going to be talking about tonight is one that's kind of near and dear. I've been harassing people for quite some time about it. So, but a little about me. I got my start back in, summer of 2023. I was a co-host on the Yellow Cottage Tales YouTube show. We talked extensively to death about the Karen Reed case. And then I sort of branched out with my friend Dave McGrath, and we were on a channel called Unsafe Spaces for a little while, talking about true crime, talking about a little bit about politics. I kind of kept well away, actually, from that part of it. But yeah, and then I started my own channel. We did a little true crime, a little cooking for a little while. Actually, we did a little weekly spot for a little bit called True Crime and Dine. So if you're looking for some good recipes, we talked crime while I tried not to cut my fingers off. So it was a fun time. We might bring that back. I'm not sure yet, though.
So. That is so cool, True Crime and Dine. I love that.
My old boss actually came up with the name, so shout out to Catherine. She's a real one.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So the Karen Reed case, I think I've heard of it once or twice, but we don't need to go into that.
I think everyone's got an opinion, and yeah, we all know opinions are like
talked about that for a while here. But going back to you being into true crime when you were, much younger, was there a certain case that grabbed you, like a specific one? Or if not, what is your earliest recollection of a case that you remember learning from an early age?
Well, oh God. I don't have a particular one that I can think of. I would read every, trashy pulp true crime soft cover that I could get my hands on. But there's not one that really jumps out until I want to say it was 2004, I think. I had just moved out, just moved away from my family from Massachusetts for the first time. And I was living in Brooklyn. This was 2005. And the case happened in 2004. It was a young girl named Taylor Beal. She went missing from Virginia Commonwealth University. The case was solved pretty quick, and it wasn't, anything really twisted or anything insane. It turned out that she had been sexually assaulted and murdered by an older man that she had become friends with. But it sort of spoke to me in a really crazy way because I was just out on my own for the first time, and I could relate sort of to where she was in life at that time. She was younger than me, but I mean, I just sort of felt like, oh my God, this could be me if I wasn't more careful as a human, And so that sort of started it. That began the obsession, really. And then after that, it was just anything that really caught my eye, anything that I could get my hands on, really. I became sort of obsessed like a bloodhound, just digging into every case I could find.
So that is a very well said answer, especially leading to when you said like a bloodhound. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask, how did you come up with the name True Crime Bloodhound? And how did that even begin?
Well, the true crime part is, kind of self-explanatory, but the bloodhound part was actually my friend Dave, who was one of my co-hosts with Yellow Cottage Tales, and a good friend that actually authored 2 books, and I'll plug him later if you don't mind. But he said, Erin, she's like a bloodhound. If there's facts about something, she'll find them. And I do a lot of research for a living, so it just kind of came about organically. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go with it. I like it.
I love that. I love that. And especially ones where like somebody else like thinks of that for you. It almost means more than, you just sitting there being like, what should I come up with,
Yeah, what do I call myself? Like, how do I market myself? I've never done that. Yes, it's Dave McGrath Tailwind. That's right. He wrote the books Monster and I Have an Obsession. There's your plug. And he's a very, very dear friend. So he deserves the plug a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So everybody check that out. Make sure to check that out for sure. So what came first, the podcast or the YouTube channel, or did they happen kind of simultaneously?
YouTube happened first. It was sort of like, hey, I'm on this with Kevin. I'm on this with Dave. Like, I can work StreamYard. I can figure out how to set up a YouTube channel and just do this myself. I can figure it out. And then the podcast happened because I sort of wanted to get away from YouTube a little bit. I was kind of not crazy about putting my face out there every week. I really wanted my voice to do the talking, not my face. So, oh, thanks, Tailwind. Yeah, we had a good thing going for a little bit. So it was YouTube first, and a lot of the episodes I have in that first season on Apple and Spotify and all that is actually just the RSS audio from my YouTube broadcast. So as we were talking about earlier, some of it might not translate great. So I'm still trying to decide how I want to work it coming back, from my little hiatus.
So the way that, because I was doing a little bit of research on your podcast before having you on, in regards to the type of content that I noticed that you had, which I think is very cool and a bit unique, because you really have, and just talking to you really do have that passion for unsolved cases and wanting to like find every little avenue of could there be something here, and that I felt that really came across. And it wasn't just like, I'm here for an hour, I'm going to tell a story, and you can just sense the passion behind that. And that's just very, maybe is the word rare or uncommon? The passion behind it, it's not there with everybody, and it was really there with you, and I wanted to make sure you knew I noted that.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, because I really want that to come across. Another thing that I've been involved with in the past year during my hiatus was a lot more towards the advocacy end of things rather than just true crime for entertainment. because it's not. I mean, there's victims here. There's families left behind without closure and without answers. And I feel like, I mean, we all consume podcasts and YouTube shows for entertainment, and that's what most of this is for, but it can also serve a good purpose. And, part of that also for me is gaining the blessing of the family. So I don't usually, this is an exception, the case we're talking about tonight, because she doesn't have an awful lot of family left to speak to and to seek the blessing of. But for example, I did a very extensive couple episodes about the Molly Bish case on my channel last year. And that was through the amazing fact checking and incredible graciousness of Heather Bish, Molly's sister. I made sure that, she checked everything that I put out there, every note I made about it, everything that I said, everything that I wrote. She fact checked everything. She set me straight on everything. So it's nice to work collaboratively with the family and make sure that everything you're putting out there is true. You don't want to market speculation or put out misinformation, because then who are you helping,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing that I've noticed, I'm really glad you brought that in with, especially with the Molly Bish case, is you and your podcast and your channel, you seem to be a bit ahead of your time, but in the best way possible, because I mean, true crime content has been along for so long, and I feel like it hasn't been until relatively recently where there's a big shift now for being really victim focused, which should have been this way the whole time.
Absolutely.
But your podcast, like in your content, is one of the ones where I noticed you were a little bit ahead of your time with that, and that's amazing because it speaks volumes to the type of creator that you are.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take full credit for that. I have to give another shout here to Angel Wood, who does the Crime of the Truest Kind podcast. Her and I have had a few pretty extensive conversations about this. And that, are you trying to get, her favorite thing to say is, are you trying to get famous or are you trying to get justice? Because I'm not here to get famous. I don't have any desire to be any kind of notable figure. All I want is to get eyes and ears on cases that maybe have fallen through the cracks. Maybe nobody's talking about them, and nobody's looking for this particular case that we're going to talk about tonight. No one's looking for her anymore, and it's devastating to think about. I mean, she doesn't have family who are advocating loudly because her parents have passed. And, it's an old case. It's been a long time, so you can't really, expect a lot. But things like the Molly Bish case, her family is still around and they are still loudly advocating for her. And my position in doing my podcast on her case was just, this case has really bothered me for a really long time. I've always wanted to know what happened. Maybe I can give a different angle on it. Maybe I can go out there and take a walk and see something that'll jog something in my brain. So that's what I did. I went down to Warren and I walked it. I saw what it looks like from the parking lot to the beach, and then from the beach to the footpaths up behind to the cemetery. Like, I wanted to see it. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to smell it. And that to me feels like the best way to go about this.
Yeah, that is, yeah, absolutely. It's such a different perspective too. Like photos, maps, they're helpful, but they don't do it justice. Like being there, seeing things, like the tiniest little details that a photo can't capture.
Exactly.
So I know I put in the description bar of tonight's show that we are going to be, you are going to be talking about an unsolved case here from Massachusetts. So you've kind of give little sprinkles of information here and there, but let's just kind of dive into the case. And that is the disappearance of Deborah Quimby, known as Debbie. So can you tell us a bit about it?
Sure. So Deborah Ann Quimby, who is also known as Debbie by her friends and her family, she was born in 1963 and went missing when she was 13 years old on May 3rd, 1977. That was the last day she was ever seen. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the area, but
I'm not.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little brief history on the area because it's sort of another really big aspect of this. So Townsend, Massachusetts is a very, very small town still, even smaller back in 1977. There's a population, a very small population. It's very rural. There's a lot of woods. There's actually, I believe, two state forests within Townsend. Well, not fully within, but like in Townsend and also in surrounding towns that extends further. And where Debbie was last seen is actually one of the only real main drags in Townsend. Townsend's pretty much an intersection of Route 13 going north-south and Route 119 going east-west. And Debbie, her family lived on a small side street right off of Route 13 going north from the center of town. So heading up towards Brookline, New Hampshire. And she set out on her bike the afternoon of May 3rd, 1977, and rode up Turnpike Road in Townsend, which is another main drag. Actually, if you want, I can pull up a map, maybe give you
absolutely.
Give you a little idea of what we're looking at here. Please work.
All right.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So Debbie is from this area right here, Smith Street. So Smith Street is off of this main drag, like I said, Brookline Street. And according to the note that Debbie left her parents, she was actually headed over here to Vinton Pond Road, which is inside of the Pearl Hill State Forest on the border of West Townsend and Fitchburg, Massachusetts. So like really, really out there. Her grandparents had a campsite on Vinton Pond Road. I've been out there. It's very nice. It's actually mostly campgrounds in this area right here. Not pointing at anything now. There we go. Within here, it's all campgrounds now. It wasn't always. There were, I believe there was like a Boy Scout camp or Girl Scout camp within that area at the time. So it's still very undeveloped over there. But there are old like camp buildings. Some are active during the summer season and some are not. So you can go there and you can walk these trails here within the Pearl Hill State Park. Highly recommend. It's very beautiful. And basically the last time that Debbie was seen, let's go back, way back, right here. All right. So it's right about here, cresting a hill on Turnpike Road. So Turnpike Road, if you'll notice, I'll zoom out a little bit. Here we go. So the most direct route by car, obviously, is 119 over to this road right here, which is New Fitchburg Road in West Townsend. That's not the most direct route to take Turnpike Road. And that's the last place she was seen. And this is why this case bothers me so damn much, is because there is no direct route road-wise that you would take to get to Vinton Pond from Turnpike Road. There isn't. Not on a street. But back then, and as is now, although it's a little derelict now, I can see if I can zoom in a little bit on that, but I don't know if it's going to come up for me. There is, and was, and still is, a set of train tracks that goes from basically back here, actually all the way up in Brookline, New Hampshire, all the way down through Fitchburg. But it crosses, interestingly, Turnpike Road up here. And there is a train trestle. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, there it is. Right there.
Okay.
Squannacook. And that area, to me, has always been a particular interest. There were a couple of people that did some YouTube sleuthing a while back and took some videos and some walks along the train tracks back there. Now it's very overgrown and a really, really easy way to get terrible poison ivy and possibly fall into a river. But back in the 70s, those train tracks were operational, as was that trestle. So that has really stuck in my craw about this case because I'm thinking, hey, she's a 13-year-old kid. If she was really heading to her grandparents' camp like she told her parents she was, why wouldn't she take this little back way, this little easy away from the main road way of going? So that's always been something that really bugged me about this, was just the very existence there of that trestle. So I've been out there a few times with my husband and with my kids, and I've taken my metal detector out there, just done some sleuthing. But I mean, it's been over 50 years. There's not really much to see now except a very scary looking trestle that I probably shouldn't have stepped on. And not much else. Lots and lots of poison ivy. So be warned. Lots of that. So essentially that's for the most part what there is to know about the case itself. She set off after school. She left her parents a note that said that she was upset and needed to work some stuff out, and jumped on her bike and said, "I'll call you later," in her note to her parents, and took off for her grandparents' campsite, supposedly. The only other information that was really gained right at the beginning is that she left a note in her locker, an undelivered note to a friend of hers that said that she was upset about some things and wanted to talk, and gave directions to her grandparents' campsite. So all we know is that she took off on her 10-speed and was never seen again. There have been
the bike ever seen again?
No. There's actually, and this really bothers me too. There's some conflicting information here, there, and everywhere. She's got information up on the Charlie Project, on NamUs. You can pull her up pretty much everywhere. Just Google her name. And some sites say Schwinn, some sites say Takura. There's a lot of confusion as to what brand of bike it was, but as far as I have been able to find out, it was a boys model brown Takura bicycle from the 70s, a 10-speed. It was never found. She was never found. There was never any trace of her clothing, her bicycle, ever after that day. So there's a lot of speculation out there. There were some people for a while who were saying there was a rumor that she was pregnant. And now bear in mind, she was 13 years old. So I'm very hesitant to believe that was why she would have been upset, but who knows? I mean, things happen. So either she met with an accident on her way and nobody saw anything, no one heard anything. It could be that somebody grabbed her and her bicycle and drove her away somewhere in a car. It's one of those, who knows? But I grew up in the town next door in Lunenburg, and when I was a kid, she was actually a cautionary tale. So my parents would say, like, hey, don't, if somebody approaches you when you're on your bike, right into the woods, right off the road, right, get away from the street and scream. You never know. So it just, please always come home, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you know how law enforcement handled this case initially? And the only reason I ask is because with a lot of cases, there seems to be, unfortunately, a lot of, oh, they probably ran away, they'll be back later, don't worry about it. And now all this time has lapsed where there might have been really good search efforts that could have been in place. Is that a detail that how law enforcement handled this?
From what I know, from what I've been able to garner from news coverage at the time, and the old timers in town who like to talk about the old days and the old cases and all that. There's quite a few of them in Townsend, and if you know where to look, they love to talk. So I've been able to make connections with a few over the past couple of years, and there was a huge search effort for Debbie for weeks after she went missing. She was featured in all the local papers pretty consistently. From last count that I was able to find, there were 7 law enforcement agencies from around the area assisting with the search. There just wasn't anything to find. And if anybody knew anything, they weren't talking. So it's incredibly unfortunate. I mean, there have been some very strange developments over the years. The Townsend police actually received anonymous letters in 2003 and 2004, telling them to drain a pond, which is actually right on Turnpike Road, called Walker Pond. And they went through it in 2003 with some sonar, some tools, and came up with nothing. And then in 2004, they received another anonymous letter saying, drain this pond, that's where you'll find her. And they did just that. They drained the pond, and there was nothing to find. They did find a bicycle. It turned out it wasn't associated with Debbie at all. And it is a fact that Walker Pond used to sit where a landfill was. So there's a lot of crap to sift through if you're trying to find anything relevant. It's going to be hard to do, especially in an area where people would just discard junk all the time. So it's tough. And there was apparently another letter in 2010. I haven't been able to find much information about that. They were pretty close-lipped about that. I'm still trying to get a sit down with the chief of the Townsend police. We've been in contact, and he's very willing to discuss the case with me, but he denied my FOIA request because it's technically an ongoing case. So,
oh man,
yeah, yep. There was never any resolution, so they can call it ongoing forever, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that this episode tonight even will go someplace to letting him know, like, my intentions are good. I promise. I'm just, I just want to get information out there. I don't want Debbie to be forgotten. I want to see this solved. Like, even if I have nothing to do with it, I want to see it solved. Because it's just awful. I mean, 13. I have a daughter. She's 10, and if she went missing at 13, I would go scorched earth, honestly. I mean, I don't think I'd ever be able to let it go. And I can't imagine what her parents went through. So, I'd love to see some resolution in this. And I mean, there are other cases in this area too. Like I was mentioning before, Townsend's a weird town, man. You wouldn't think it. It's a beautiful little town and it's got great history, but there are some very strange things that have gone on here over the past, let's say 50, 60 years.
So for those who aren't from Massachusetts and don't know what you're referring to, can you elaborate a little on that?
Sure. Well, Townsend, as people who are from this area know, it's where the infamous Danny LaPlante is from. And Danny LaPlante has been the subject of many a documentary. He's still talked about in town. The aforementioned old timers love to talk about the day that he was apprehended. There's a very interesting episode of an investigation discovery show from a million years ago. I can't even remember the name of it right now, but he actually asked a girl on a date. She went out with him and then decided that he was a huge creep and decided to kind of ghost him after that. Wasn't interested, just, she was nice about it, but apparently he didn't take rejection well and hid in the walls of her house and terrorized her younger sister, and her father for months. He was in the walls.
Scary.
Yeah. He would come out when they weren't home and just mess with things and then just go back inside this. And I mean, we're not talking like a crawl space. We're talking in the wall, like nightmare fuel, total nightmare fuel. So he did end up getting tried for that, but I don't think he was put away for it. I think he got some sort of probation. He was young at the time. He was a minor. And then unfortunately he went on to murder a woman and a pregnant woman and her 2 children in Townsend not long afterwards. This is late 80s, 87 or 88, the Gustafson family. Sorry, I just saw your cat and I was like, oh my God, what's that?
Oh, I got 6.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I have 4, so now I don't feel so weird. But yeah, Danny LaPlante is a shadow that hangs over this area quite prolifically. And then earlier than that, even prior to Debbie's disappearance, there was a school teacher in Townsend named Judy Vuig, who was murdered behind her home, in the woods behind her home, just randomly one Sunday morning. And the police had some pretty good intel on who they thought did it, but they couldn't prove it. So they could never bring anyone to trial for it. And that also remains unsolved. So Townsend's got a history. I mean, I love this area. I've lived here for pretty much my whole life, but it's got a history. And that train trestle I mentioned, maybe my draw to it is that it's pretty much directly behind Judy Vuig's house, which is in turn across the street from Saunders Road, which is where the Gustafson house was. So that little area right there, yeah. I refer to it on my own as the Townsend Triangle. So some weird stuff has gone down. But the Debbie Quimby case has been one that's been on my mind, in the back of my mind, in the forefront of my mind for years now. So if I could get somewhere with it, I would love to.
So where is her family in this? I mean, so much time has passed. Are they still, especially her parents, are they still around? Are they still in the area? Has anybody close to this case passed away without getting any type of answer?
Unfortunately, both her parents did. Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'm sure, people believe what they want to believe about what happens to us after we pass. And, I've never been a big religious person, but I like to think that they got their closure. They got their answers afterwards, but Debbie does still have a sister in the area. I have not been able to get into contact with her. I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach it. I mean, it has been almost 50 years, and I don't want to open up old wounds,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that her remaining family members feel the way they feel about it, and if they would rather I didn't dig into it anymore, I will wash my hands and not talk about it publicly ever again. But a lot of the families that I have spoken to over the past couple of years, namely, like I said, Heather Bish, and actually Bethany T, who is Brittany T's sister, have been very receptive to discussing the cases with me and to having me go public and talk about their family members and talk about the cases and the things that are true and the things that are actually rumors and shouldn't be spread as truth. And I'm hoping to continue relationships like that as I move forward. So if Debbie's family is not receptive to having people talk about it in public, this will probably be the last time I do. But I have all the respect in the world for victims' families, and if they would rather we don't discuss their family member's case, then I have to respect that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so tough because there's, you could have 5 different families, and then within that, so many different perspectives of each family member, where some maybe, like you said, it could be old wounds, and where some might, on the other flip side, might be like, thank you for making sure my loved one is not forgotten, even after all this time. So.
I have been in contact with a woman whose brother died under mysterious circumstances. I told her that I would not say names publicly because she is currently working through some court issues with other people, and I wouldn't want to jeopardize that. She asked me to hold off, but she was of that mind as well. I reached out to her through a friend of her brother's who reached out to me and said, hey, you should talk about this. And I said, well, I need a family member. I need somebody to give me permission to talk to me about him. And she did. I actually went to her home and we had a nice long chat, and she gave me a lot of information. She gave me a lot of documents. And, we're still in touch. We're still in pretty constant touch. And she's given me updates on the court process and all that. But as soon as that's cleared up, she would love nothing more than to get out there with his story. But one of the things to understand when you do this with the victim-centric perspective is that they have lives too. And they have things going on too. And if, something like probate court is happening, you can't go out there and talk about this and give your theories and talk about someone in maybe a negative light, because that could jeopardize their chances of doing well in court, of prevailing in probate, something like that. So you got to watch your ass, basically. So just respect the family's wishes. That's what matters.
And just like you said right there, I just want to bring that back to the compliment that I gave you earlier on, where it's, podcasts now, YouTube, true, documentaries, there's so much content out there, and it's so easy if somebody just wants to put out something where I could get a lot of likes from this, or a lot of clicks, or, high ratings. But at the same time, you could be jeopardizing what is there of the case. And it just, you definitely take that. Like I said, I think you were way ahead of your time with the victim-centered kind of research on this, and wanting to make sure you honor the family's wishes, whatever they may be.
Yep. I mean, I have a really good example of when it didn't go so well for, Dave and I way back when, and we've taken it down since then because we were asked to. But we did an episode on the Unsafe Spaces channel a million years ago about a man who died under mysterious circumstances in Providence. And we were asked by his sister and a couple friends of the family. We got the blessing of his mother, from what I can remember. Dave did the family side of everything. But as soon as we were finished, as soon as we had, sort of done a little bit of information, like, hey, we're going to do more of an episode on this later, that sort of thing. As soon as we went off the air, I got a message from his brother. He said, absolutely not. Take that down right now. I don't want anybody talking about my brother's case. And I said, okay, we're done. I said, we were asked, this person gave us their permission. We would never just go off the handle and do that. But, we were asked to cover it. And he said, I understand that, but he's my brother and I don't want this out there. So we took it down. And that was one of the scariest nights of my life, actually, because, it just, I thought we had the blessing. I thought we had the permission. And it turned out that, one family member felt one way about it and another family member felt the opposite way about it. And you can't just go off of one person's perspective. You can't just go, well, she said it was okay, so it's okay. If you have someone who is, someone left behind after something tragic like a murder or an accidental death or any kind of mysterious disappearance, something like that, and they're saying, I don't want you to talk about this. You don't have the right to talk about this. I won't,
Yeah.
I mean, there are exceptions to that. Things like I did, God, and I hate that I did it, but I did a couple episodes a couple of years ago about the JonBenet case. That case is, I mean, everybody has talked about that case. That case has been one of the big unsolved for many, many years now. And everyone has their take on it. Everyone has their opinion on it. And I thought about it and I said, I've always wondered this about this case. And let me dive into it. And then as soon as I did, I felt kind of dirty about it, because it's not like I'm reaching out to John Ramsey. Patsy has unfortunately passed away. And, I don't know if you're familiar, but Jim Clemente, he was part of the behavioral, whatever it is, behavioral unit of the FBI for many years. He's a hero of mine, and I feel bad because I can't remember the name of the actual thing that he was a part of. But the John,
he's a host of 2 different podcasts I listen to.
Yes, I love him
Yep.
so very much. But him and Laura Richards, who he works with on one of those podcasts, did a CBS special about the JonBenet case, and wherein they decided that the evidence that they found, that they followed, pointed to JonBenet's brother Burke, and they were subsequently sued for a ton of money after putting that out there. And I didn't take a stance on it when I did mine. I was just like, look, the popular theory is this. It could have been this. We don't know. That's the whole point. That's why it's such a head scratcher. But that always kind of didn't sit right with me. And I really don't want to continue down a road like that. I would rather work with the family, with whoever's advocating for the victim, and, move forward and try and put eyes and ears on cases instead of sensationalizing something that's been talked about to death.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Debbie's case, where it is a case that is so close to home for you. It just adds that different kind of personal connection where, like you said, growing up, parents referencing like, oh, this happened here. And it's absolutely terrifying. And it makes it real. It's not like, oh, this happened in another state. It's no, this happened where we're from.
Yeah. It's like urban legend, but with for keeps. Like, this actually happened here, 10 minutes from where I grew up. Like, it can happen to any kid who's riding their bike. You never know what's going to happen. And that was, as far as I'm aware, because I'm an 80s baby, so I'm not really sure. I don't know what the stranger danger climate was back in the late 70s, but I do know when I was getting to the age where I was becoming a little bit more independent, riding my bike by myself, getting kicked out of the house first thing in the morning during the summer, not to return until dusk.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Stranger danger was not really the hugest concern. It wasn't, hey, don't talk to strangers. It was like, just get the hell away from anyone you don't know. Like, if someone's coming up to you, just go the other way. It was never like, oh, you're going to get grabbed, because that wasn't really a thing. But
right.
It was always just be conscious of your surroundings, because stuff does happen. Even here in the middle of godforsaken nowhere, things can actually happen. And, I would love nothing more than to figure out what actually happened to her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we didn't necessarily touch upon, but and if this was wrong when I did a little deep diving, please correct me. What her description and what she was wearing at the time of her disappearance. So she was 13 years old, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
What I found was she was 5'1", about 120 pounds.
Yep.
White female, brown hair, brown eyes. She had freckles as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the clothing she was wearing, it seemed to be, when I was reading that, I'm like, it's very like multicolored shirt. So it's something where she wouldn't necessarily just blend in the woods. She would be visible.
Right. And the Pop Warner jacket too.
Yep. And it had the name Debbie embroidered on the sleeve too. So that makes it, another layer. If something was found, it would have been a little bit more identifiable.
Blue. Yeah, exactly. And usually, and I would have to do a little more research on this, but usually if you've got something like a Letterman jacket, it's leather. The sleeves are leather. They would hold up, and I mean, they've got snaps, they're metal, like something has to be out there. Some trace has to be out there. So my dear husband, who's incredibly supportive, actually bought me a metal detector for Christmas.
I love that.
Yeah, and for my birthday, he got me like a bunch of accessories for it. So my hope is to just start looking. I've done a little practice run with it here and there just to see, but like no one else is looking and there's no law against it. So I'm just going to start looking. Yeah. And, any looking is better than no looking, so any chance I get, I just drive the area. I'll stop wherever I kind of feel the urge to stop and take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those that's just stuck and it won't go away.
Yeah. Well, I commend you for, again, this case is close to home for you, but also you not wanting to just let it be forgotten.
Right.
You want answers for the family that's left, for Debbie, and for the community, because it's just heartbreaking that anytime anybody goes missing, but when it's a child, it adds a whole layer to it.
Yep. And now that I'm a mom of a preteen, it's really bothering me a lot more, And like one other thing that I'll say, like just when we're talking about like, theories and whatnot, I don't know if you've ever owned a vintage bicycle. My husband is a bicycle mechanic, so this is something that sticks too. A 10-speed bike from the 70s, that's heavy. That is cumbersome. So if somebody pulled over and said, "Oh, I'll give you a ride," and maybe something happened later on, you have to get that monster in the car. You have to get that huge ass bike in a trunk or in a back seat or both if you're putting the seats down, whatever it is. That's going to take some time. So that's something that's always really gotten to me, because Turnpike Road, like I showed you, is right off the main drag in Townsend. I know it was 1977, but it was a spring afternoon. It was nice outside. There were other kids riding bikes that saw her along her way until she was, cresting that hill and never seen again. But I feel like if she was grabbed or if she got into a car with someone, that would have been noticed, especially with a bike that big and heavy. It would have been something that somebody, sort of took note of. And with all the news coverage and all the police around, I would hope anyway that someone would say something about her getting in a car. So that's just, that's where my brain goes. It's like, I know about bikes, and I know that 70s bikes were solid and heavy. They weren't like they are now.
Yeah.
So it's just, another detail that sends me off on a little tangent. So
yeah. If somebody does, hear you talking about this case, whether it's here or on your platform, and they think, they know someone who might have information, or it's somebody who's much older that, maybe in hindsight, gee, you know what, there was that little detail and I don't think it means much, but let me bring it to law enforcement's case just in case it does mean something. What is the best avenue? Who should somebody contact? The Townsend local police or?
Yeah. Chief Sartell of the Townsend, Massachusetts Police Department. I've spoken to him a couple of times. He's very receptive. He's a nice guy. And this case is still very important to him. To hear him talk about it even briefly, you can tell that this case really, it bothers him too. And he would love to see it solved too. I mean, this case, I think, has been through now 3 police chiefs in Townsend, and it's just, it's one. And if you go into the Townsend Police Department, it's about this big. And when you walk in, there's a cork board on the wall to your right, and there's notices, town notices, whatever. But Debbie Quimby's missing poster has been up there and will stay up there until their case is solved. And it's just, it's so sad to look at too, because, you can tell they've replaced it over the years. It's not the same copy that went up, that police department hasn't been there since the 70s. They've moved buildings, but it's got a place of pride up there. It's got a place of very prominent importance, but the sun's getting to it and it's drying, and you can just tell, like, we want this case solved. It's going to be there until it's solved,
Yeah.
And it just breaks my heart a little more every time I see her picture. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely reach out to the Townsend police, because they're a good bunch of guys. They've always been very kind to me when I've gone in and bugged the chief to talk to me. They're all very courteous, and they're small town cops. They're great guys. They're all very nice. So anybody, I'm sure, would be happy to take a report, to take a tip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's what we can, something to hope for at this point. It's just so much time has passed, and somebody always knows something. And
me crazy.
It's just that.
Please just talk. Somebody, please, somebody was writing those letters. I mean, somebody was, right? The police didn't just make them up. They came in the mail, and where'd they come from? Who's talking? That was 30 years on almost. And, so there has to be something somebody knows. Somebody has some information, and all they have to do is just give it to one person. I don't care if it's me. I don't care if it's you. I don't care if it's anybody, as long as it gets out there, and gets to to the people who need to have it in order to bring resolution to this case.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and not only talk about your, your podcast and what you are looking to do, but to give a lot of information about this case. I don't typically cover unsolved cases on my channel very often. I'm a bit OCD and I like closure.
I feel that.
But yeah, you are definitely like the perfect person to discuss the details of, again, something local to you. And yeah, we're both from Massachusetts. We both share that. But again, this is very local to you, and to kind of get this out there, and hopefully somebody who knows something will say something.
I really hope so. And until somebody does, I'm going to keep bugging the old timers at the antique mall.
Yes.
Yep.
So in regards to your content, whether it's YouTube or your podcast, what is there anything in store that people can kind of look for? I know you said you took a bit of a hiatus.
I did.
Is there a coming back thing? What should people look for? Or is that still in the works?
It's still in the works, but it's happening. It's definitely happening. I had a little time when I was a little overwhelmed at my previous job, and it was getting to be a lot trying to figure out content responsibly and, ethically and correctly, and also maintain, the 60 whatever hours that I was working a week. And
Oof.
it got to be a lot. I mean, I'm raising 2 kids with, with my husband, and it just became a little bit too much, and we had to kind of let something slide for a little while. So I just decided to take a break, and then a break turned into a year. And now I'm like, okay, well, it's now or never. So I need to shit or get off the pot, I guess. So I actually hired, as in I will pay her what I'm able to. A friend of mine who is a few years my junior, more than a few actually, to help me navigate marketing myself on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff, because I can't get a hold of the hashtags. I'm too old. She's going to help me out with the marketing aspect, because that's the part I'm not very good at. I could talk for days about any case, but I'm not so good at selling myself. So she's going to help me out with that aspect. I had a lovely man named Mike write me a theme song. So we actually have music now. So like we're really getting into it now. We're actually going to be official and stuff. So yeah, we're getting there. A little bit behind the scenes happening. And like I said, the woman that I was speaking to about her brother's case, I was going to come back earlier this year with that, and then they went into court. So I had to hold off. So yeah, hopefully within the next month or two, we'll have some regularly scheduled content happening. Not sure on what platform, but it'll be happening.
So with that being said, everybody follow on all platforms. And Erin, can you tell us where those platforms are? Where can people find you?
I will try. So I'm on YouTube at True Crime Bloodhound. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as the True Crime Bloodhound. So follow me there. I have a TikTok. We have not put anything out, but it's at True Crime Bloodhound on TikTok. And I try to put updates out on Facebook when I have them. So that's pretty much the first stop, but I'm getting better, I promise, with the Instagram and the social media. I'm a child of MySpace, man. Actually, I'm a child of AOL dial-up, honestly. So
girl, I'm right there with you. Oh my gosh. Yep.
Well, you're a friggin' queen compared to me with the marketing and and all the socials. Like, you know what you're doing. I'm still kind of green as far as that's concerned.
I put off TikTok for the longest time, And it was like other content creators are just like, you have to.
Yeah.
Like in this day and age, and that's where like the hashtags really comes in. And I'm just like,
I'm not good at even my husband, who is older than me, is better at hashtags than I am. And I'm like, I still can't. Why do I need to hashtag things? Like, no, I don't want to hashtag anything. I don't understand. No, I hired a 26-year-old to help me with TikTok.
They'll get the job done. That's for sure.
She is so much better at social media than me. So shout out to Lexi. I promise someday I'll be monetized and I can actually pay you money.
So one more question. And if anybody has any questions before we kind of wrap up tonight's show, for Erin, please put them in the chat by all means, whether it's related to the case that we just discussed, some of the other cases that we briefly talked about earlier tonight, or maybe just a question for Erin. But the question that I feel is the most important of the night, but you did kind of already answer it a little bit. It was, do you have pets? And you said you have 4 cats.
Yes, I have 4 cats and a dog.
Oh, and a dog. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. So can you tell us about your pets, please? We are a very pet-friendly channel here.
Well, my dog, his name is Maxwell. He is a freakishly large Cairn Terrier. So think Toto from The Wizard of Oz with giantism. Like, he's enormous. Those dogs are only supposed to get to like 10 pounds. He's 35 pounds. Yeah, he's some kind of mutt blend, but he's the best boy. And he just turned 15, actually. Him and I share a birthday.
15, so, that's incredible.
Yeah, he's slowing down, but he can still jump up and down at the door like he's spring loaded when the turkeys come in the backyard. So he's doing okay. And then we have 4 cats. So we have Marty McFly, who is an orange tabby. We have Trouble the squirrel, who is a all black. And then their 2 kittens out of the litter of 3. We have Pigeon, who my son named. And yeah, he was like 3 when he decided her name was Pigeon. And then Lola, who is this crazy calico tabby. So she's actually got half an orange face, half a gray face, even down to her nose is actually 2 different colors. So they're gorgeous cats. Yep. So we've got a harem here of animals. And then 2 kids and 2 adults. So it's a circus around here.
So your plate is a little bit full, so it kind of makes sense that you needed a bit of a break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you know, it's a happy, cluttered, amazingly crazy circus around here.
So Mr. Beckham has a question. So Erin, just for some context, Mr. Beckham comes on my show at the end of the week. Me and him were co-hosts along with another friend on another true crime YouTube channel that focused on the Charles Manson case. So that's where I know Mr. Beckham. Me and him are very good friends. But he has a very interesting question, Beckham. So Erin, since the start of your podcast, has anything law enforcement procedural related surprised you?
Well, that's another part of my background I didn't really talk about yet, actually. I graduated from law school about, Jesus Christ, 14 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while. So nothing really surprises me anymore at all. I've seen good outcomes. I've seen disappointing outcomes. There have been a few things that have made me kind of scratch my head and go, like, why? Why would this be done this way? The thing that jumps to mind is actually something you sort of alluded to earlier with reference to the Molly Bish case. When she went missing, the police approached that initially by saying, like, oh, she probably just walked away.
Yeah.
Like, probably just being a teenager. She probably just took off with her friends. Like, no, not every teenager is irresponsible. Like, not every teenager would just up and leave. Like, she had a job and she was very committed to doing her job, and she wouldn't have walked away. But the police at first were treating it like, oh, she's just flaking because she's a teenager and that's what they do. That's something that has bothered me for a very long time. And police getting sort of that little bit of tunnel vision with regard to stereotypes about people, that bothers me. It doesn't surprise me anymore, but it does bother me.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well said. I remember that being part of Molly's case, and just cringing, thinking there was lost time that could have been so crucial.
Yep.
But then also, people don't listen, or sorry, law enforcement doesn't always listen to the family,
Right.
the friends, the coworkers, the community members. It's, there are some people where it's, what could they have just kind of upped and gone right now? Possibly. But then there are some where it's like, no, this is out of character. Something's wrong.
Yep.
And that's when it's so frustrating because,
Absolutely.
Tailwind has kind of a question / suggestion. Erin, maybe set up a group search of volunteers in Townsend for some weekend morning.
I think that would be a fantastic idea. I want to get with Chief Sartell and discuss options like that with him, and just make sure we're not stepping on toes. We're not getting in anyone's way. Like, obviously, no one's out there searching constantly right now. And I think setting something up like that would be a great idea. Just even if we don't find anything, just to have the awareness out there in real life, boots on the ground in town, so people can see that this is still important and this is still unsolved and people still care. I think it's a fantastic idea. And once I can get a little FaceTime with the chief and really talk this stuff through, that is something that I intend to bring up with him as well.
If you are able to coordinate something, please let me know, one, so I can share it on my social medias. And also, I would love to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would love to do that.
And I think I can
figure out how to hashtag it.
Oh God. I'll help you with that. And we'll get the 26-year-old one to do the TikTok hashtags.
Yep, we can do that. I don't know what.
I can say, like, I don't like to speak for other people very often, but I can confidently say one of my best friends, she comes on camera here once in a while, the Liz, you got to meet her as well. I know she would love to be a part of that too. So you keep me posted, and yeah, I'll make her buy me a coffee at Starbucks or something on the way. Yeah.
There's no Starbucks up here, just fair warning. We have
no Starbucks. Well,
no.
Do you at least have Starbucks?
Is either in Leominster or Nashua. So you got to go at least 20 minutes in either direction to get Starbucks. But we have lots of Dunkin' Donuts, and we have a Gourmet Donuts down the street, which is amazing.
All right. I can get behind a dunk size latte. I can, okay, that sounds like it. But yeah, absolutely. I would love to share that, and the more people, that would be amazing.
Get that going.
All right. So any other things, Erin, that we didn't touch upon that you kind of want to let everybody know, or things people should be on the lookout for you before we wrap up for tonight? I know we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, there's been a lot. No, I don't think so. I think it's just be patient. If you want some content, just be patient. I'm a busy mom, but this is my passion project. So I will be back, and there will be new content, and hopefully we can get some search efforts set up, because that's the best way. I mean, especially in a small town like this, because people talk, and people in small towns talk a lot. So if if our efforts are seen by people who, frequent the cafe downtown, they'll tell their friends and they'll tell their friends and so on and so on. Word of mouth is very powerful in a setting like this in small town America. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. Well, thank you, Erin, so much for
thank
coming
you.
on Danny After Dark. I really appreciate it. And it was awesome to meet you in person at the
Me too.
Podcast Festival. So I did put your information in the drop down bar below. So if anybody after the show wants to go and follow, like, comment, get in touch with Erin, her information is below. So
yeah, you can always email me too. I don't know if you put that up or not, but I'm very receptive to anonymous tips through email or.
I did not put your email. Can you let people know what that is?
Yeah, it's Dubs, D-U-B-S, Dubs the Bloodhound at gmail.com. So it's all one word.
Awesome. Perfect. Hopefully this episode will help kind of, if not get in a tip, just someone knows something.
Something. And if there's a case that's close to your heart, or close to the heart of somebody that you care about, and you would like someone to talk about it, and discuss with somebody who maybe is left behind by a missing person or a passed away loved one, reach out, because that's what I do.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you, Erin, so much again. And thank you, everybody who was here live tonight in the chat. And thank you for everybody who will be watching this on replay. And if you have a question or comment, leave it on the video and we'll get back to you. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your evening. And remember, until next time, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.
Bye.